Here we are again with another episode of Let's Talk Music, RVA. My name is Charles Mans, and my co-host partner over there is Mr. Bill McGee. And we are glad to be here again. It's a wonderful program, and we're getting great response. So, Bill, what do you got to say about now season 3?
Hey, Charles, thank you for having me back. I truly appreciate the fact that you let me do this with you. I'm honored. And season 3, right? Season 3, that's crazy. But this is a special program. You and I have been wanting to do this program for a long time. So we're going to kick it off and already get started on season 3. But we're going to tell everybody we got a couple of special guests with us. And we'll introduce those to you, or those two special guests, in a minute. But Charles, I want you to lead off, and I'll tell everybody what this issue is about. This edition of Let's Talk Music Richmond is about talking and praising and commemorating those people who are no longer with us. People who've had a heavy influence on all of us who are still here. And because they've gone on, we can't interview them at this time. Some of them, we were going to interview them a week before they passed. And others, we didn't even know they had passed and we couldn't interview them. So I'm going to throw it back to Charles and let you reflect on some of your dear friends that are gone. And then I want to talk about a couple of mine.
Well, I think it's very important that we start out with the 4 main groups that you and I, during the period of 1970, you and I were members of. Yourself with Trussell and myself with Ujima, Brother Love, Anglo-Saxon Brown Silk. And then, of course, the other groups that played a lot of the engagements with us would be Poison and Starfire. Now, fortunately, none of the members of Starfire at this time had passed at the time of this recording.
Amen.
Yeah, so they're still alive and kicking and acting like teenagers still, nonetheless. But we've lost some members of Poison. We've lost some members of Ujima, Brother Love. And, of course, we lost members of Trussell. So we started with the members of Poison that have passed us by. Recently, it was Debo Dabney, piano player, excellent piano player. I worked with Debo so many times over the years. It was just a privilege to know him. And he was extremely talented, extremely gifted young man.
One of Richmond's favorite piano players and just a well-liked musician. Debo and I did a song together on one of my CDs called Kicking and Screaming. And they played a lot on Music Choice and all over the country and the world. If you get a chance to check out Bill McGee with Debo Dabney on Kicking and Screaming.
Another member of Poison that had passed on, and he also worked with me with Anglo-Saxon Brown and Silk, and that's MELVIN Watson, bass player. You talk about a guy that had a lot of funk and a lot of singing and a lot of funk in his bass. You know, he had so much texture to our group, and he was a driving force with Poison, outstanding singer. I mean, I don't even know what else I can say about it. He was a
nice guy. That's the other thing. He was a big old teddy bear. MELVIN was a wonderfully nice person.
No doubt about it. Only those 2 members of Poison, to my knowledge, have passed at the time of this recording. Now, of course, with my group, several. Carlton Robinson, the first one, bass player, with when we had the group Brother Love Ujima. And then we lost Dwight Smith, piano player, outstanding arranger, vocal arranger, music arranger. You know, well, I first met Dwight, saxophone player. He and I used to run around Richmond playing saxophone for everybody. And then we formed the group, and the group grew into Brother Love Ujima, Anglo-Saxon Brown and Silk.
I can't say enough about how nice Dwight Smith was as a person. Not only was he talented, but he and I got a chance to work together on quite a few projects, especially when Dwight was producing Joyce Irby, Cinderella, who ended up with Climax. And Dwight and I ended up doing quite a few projects. I did all the horns for her and Dwight, and he and I worked very closely together. He was just such a beautiful person.
Excellent arranger. Dwight was an outstanding
fantastic musician.
Arranger for string and orchestra. He was just fabulous.
Fantastic musician. Then the other one, Carlton. My quick story is I met Carlton when he was with the Sweet Inspirations back in 1969 or 70. And he and Geraldine Morris were with the Sweet Inspirations touring all over with Sissy Houston. And that's when I met Carlton Robinson in Atlanta. So I met Carlton before I met most of everybody else around here that I know. And then when I got here and found out that he was here in Richmond, I was going like, oh, you're the dude that was playing with Geraldine and the Sweet Inspirations. He said, yeah, he toured with Elvis Presley. He's a hell of a musician too, man. Excellent bass player and singer.
We lost Carlton too early. We lost him way too early.
Yeah, too young.
Another
too young to die.
Member of the organization was Alvon Lee. He was our road driver, the guy who just kept everything in line. He was an engineer for a while.
He was a bouncer. He was everything.
He was, oh yeah.
Your security guy, he was all of that.
Right. Alvon did it all. And so we lost Alvon not too long ago. So those are three that we lost. And of course, in Trussell. Tell me about Trussell.
Well, I don't know if everybody knows, but Larry Tynes, who was our lead singer, was a fabulous musician. I tell everybody right now, out of all the musicians I've worked with in my life, I think I respected Larry's musicianship more than anybody else because he was such a great pianist. He also played brass instruments, and he sang like Donny Hathaway and Philip Bailey. And I don't know too many people who had Donny Hathaway's smooth sound and the range of Philip Bailey. So when I speak of Larry Tynes, man, I was in awe of working with him all the time. And then we lost Veronica Jones. Veronica was the only female that ever sang with Trussell. And she was an extremely talented vocalist, Richmond, Virginia native, lived over there in Central Gardens. And we lost Veronica, man. Veronica died of lupus, just for everybody else's sake. To know, because at the time HIV was running around and everybody was going, I wonder if she had this, I wonder if she had that. She didn't have any of that. She had lupus. And very few people knew much about what lupus was and what lupus was doing at the time to people. So we salute Veronica, we salute Larry Tynes, members of Trussell that have gone on to glory. Charles, let's move on and see what else we can see what else, because we're trying to do our best to keep it short, but it's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be, well, first of all, I want to introduce the two special guests that we have. We have, let me do Mr. Marsha Meekins. Marsha was with us before when we did one of our interviews with Marsha. Well, a school teacher in the Richmond area as well as in the Baltimore area, but right now she's well known as a flute player and always on the road, obviously. She's on the road as we speak. But Marsha has joined us, and she will help us reminisce some of these folks on this list. And then who else do we have with us, Bill? We have another guest as well.
We have the wonderful Pearl Glenn, saxophonist extraordinaire, someone that everybody in Richmond knows. Pearl, you don't know how popular you are, but Pearl is Richmond's premier lady saxophonist. Everybody knows Pearl. If you ask them from back in the day, they said the first thing when they talk about female saxophone players, they talk about Pearl Glenn. And she was one of the jazz ladies. And that's when I first got to know her because, see, she was doing music when I was a baby. And Pearl...
You had to go there.
And then Pearl... No, I wasn't even here in Richmond at the time. I was in Georgia. That's what I really meant. But then when I got here and I saw the jazz ladies and they were getting down, that was Pearl Glenn up there, boy, with my girl Dot and Marsha and that whole group of folk that the jazz ladies were. But Pearl, we welcome you to this too. And you really helped us out because your history here with music, it supersedes all of ours because you know some things that some of us don't know, and you know about some people that we really didn't know as well. Charles is going to lead off by asking you to chime in on a few of the people that you had worked with and played with.
The first name on this list is Bassist Saunders. Bassist Saunders, bass guitar player, played for Motown, played for Richmond, played for Donna Hathaway. Bassist got a history with all of us. And again, Bassist is one of those people that I was talking to less than a week before he passed and said, I'm going to get around to interviewing you, Bassist. He said, all right. But I missed that opportunity. What was your encounters with Bassist, Pearl? I know you worked with him early.
Yes, back in the day, I was a member of an all-girl group called Fabulettes. Bassist played bass with us before Motown grabbed him. And that's how I met Bassist.
How was it an all-girls group if you had bass in it?
Well, all girl plus one. I'll put it that way.
Well, actually, y'all did that more than once because you did it with a drummer. Sometimes you had an all girls plus one. So
Yeah.
whoever you had to get to fill in, but that one guy gets the privilege to work with the ladies. Why y'all never called me to fill in? I mean, you know,
Because Pearl never missed no gig.
that's the problem.
That wasn't my doing, Charles.
Pearl didn't miss no gig. They didn't need you.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Bassist Saunders was an outstanding musician. He was just a dapper dude.
What year Basie graduated?
Oh, I
Basie.
don't know. I don't know.
Was it before you or after you or?
It has to be after me because I'm older. I was older than he was.
Okay. See, that's what. See, that means I kind of can lock in some time frames.
Okay.
Another name on there, Charles. If I skip on, I know it was the next name. That's why I was jumping in.
Right,
It's Melvin Wawa Reagan, also known as Melvin Wawa Watson. And
Yes.
everybody gets all confused because when they say Melvin Reagan, Wawa Reagan was from Richmond, they don't realize that's the same Melvin Wawa Watson that did all the Motown songs.
Yeah.
Tell us about him.
Okay, I met Wawa also when I was playing with the Fabulettes. He played bass with us for a while before Motown grabbed him.
I'm trying to remember the first group he went out with in Motown. I can't think of the name of the hit, but he just did so many while he was there. He worked with Motown for a number of years.
Yeah.
And, many of their recordings. First time I met him was there was a little club in Churchill called Rendezvous West. And,
Rendezvous East.
Rendezvous East. I think it was on that when you're coming up. I can't think of the name of the street, but
Jefferson Avenue.
That's it, Jefferson Avenue. And so he was playing there. And that's one of the first times I had an encounter with Melvin. Melvin, Basie, and Jerome Brearley. The three of them,
Yeah.
they were back in Unifics, and they did Donna Hathaway. They did so many different groups, so many.
Yes.
The next name on this list is Walter Morris, one of the members of the legendary Morris family. Oh my
Yes.
God!
Yes.
Did you work with Geraldine and Walter and them at all, Pearl?
Geraldine was a member of the Fabulettes. She played
wow.
guitar with us. Geraldine was bad.
Oh, wow.
Next thing we knew, she went on the road with Elvis Presley with the Sweet Inspirations.
Right.
It's hard to keep that good talent down.
Oh,
That's the
man.
problem.
So what about Walter? Did you know the rest of the Morris family and Walter?
Yes, I knew Walter very well. Walter was bad. I met him, I think he sat in with the Fabulettes a few times. And I remember when he was taking lessons from the guitarist Jerry Fields, and he told Jerry Fields that he wanted to start from the beginning. He didn't want Jerry to know how bad he was. He was dynamite.
So
and then
when did the Fabulettes start? When did you start the group, the Fabulettes?
I think it was in, year 1961, 62.
Okay.
We had Trita Smith on drums, Diane Jones on trumpet, Geraldine Morris on guitar. We didn't have a bass player, so when we started, Nat Robinson played bass with us.
Since you mentioned Trita Smith, the same Trita that worked at WRVA for years, is that the Trita?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
the voice of Richmond, and the Trita was one of the first, premier voices black females in broadcasting in Richmond. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yes.
She worked at RVA and treated it. Her brother Charles went to Virginia State. Excellent flautist. Excellent, and a violinist, right, Marsha? Charles played violin and he played flute. And that's how I knew of Trita, but I didn't even know until you told us that Trita was a drummer. Yeah,
she sang also.
Oh, wow.
She sang and played drums.
Wow.
Yeah.
The next name on this list is a name we've mentioned many times, and several folks have mentioned. That's, of course, is Johnny Payton.
Yes. Yes.
Johnny, again, we have to mention it one more time. I don't think we ever stop mentioning Johnny Payton. The influence that he had, impact that he had on all of us as musicians, as students of music. He was my very first teacher. So he just had a major impact on anything music in Richmond that came out of the black community for sure. Carlton Ayers. What can I say about Carlton Ayers? Saxophone player extraordinaire, my friend.
Yes.
Jazz sextets. What can we say about Carlton Ayers?
Pearl, you and Carlton were probably competing against each other quite a bit as far as pre-Charles Mann and all the rest of us. See, like mid-'60s, late 60s, you and Carlton were blazing it around here with Johnny Houston and a few other folks. When you start calling the names, when Charles was in high school, you and Carlton Ayers were killing it. Yeah,
that's going to be some of these guys on this list further down the list will come up. Their names will come up during that same time period. Sax players that were outstanding. The ones with Stacey and the Majestics band and Mike Harris was who Carlton was with. There's just so many good players during that time of the 60s. So that's who I watched. That's who I kept my eye on. So that the first early of the 70s is when I started making my mark. And let me just go down the first half of the list. And first half of the list is going to be Basie, Melvin Regland, Walter Mars, Johnny Payton, Carlton Ayers, Bernard Robinson, Carlton Massenberg, Rudy Ford, Zeke, Giles Thomas, Roscoe, James Mays, and Samuel Grant. Okay, now a couple of these names I don't know, Pearl. So let me just keep on going as I was. Bernard Robinson I know well. He was Carlton Robinson's brother. Saxophone player with Stacey and the Majestics. Undoubtedly, great tone. Great, a lot of robust sound as he played. And of course, Stacey had a lot of sax players. A lot of them.
Yes.
Carlton Robinson, Carlton Massenberg, another one. Doing that same time, a force to be reckoned with. No doubt. Oh my God. Outstanding. I was watching these guys as I was getting started.
They're a little bit before my time, but Massenberg, the Massenberg name is all over Richmond in general, in this area in general. There's quite a few different Massenbergs who are involved in music, and so I probably would try to get into that more later. But right now, a couple of Giles' name kind of jumped out at me.
Well, Giles Thompson was a good friend of my family. Excellent trumpet player. A lot of fun. Real tall, big guy. A lot of fun. I do not know Rudy Ford. Tell me about it, Pearl.
I met Rudy Ford on Facebook. He's a sax player. And my church, Cornerstone Baptist Church Drama Ministry, did a Christmas presentation, and they asked Rudy and me to play on it. So we did a duet of You Raise Me Up, and we became really good friends. And he passed away.
Yes, Big Rudy, and I knew him, Charles. Rudy was a principal at George. He was a principal at George Wood High School. He was a school administrator, and Rudy and I knew each other well. Excellent player and this beautiful deep voice.
Yeah.
Rudy had a real deep voice, and but he was a really nice guy, big old teddy bear, and excellent sax player. We had talked about getting together and doing some things.
Well, what can you tell me about Zeke?
Zeke played bass. He had a group called Zeke and the Soul Setters.
Well, what is Zeke's full name? Do we know?
I don't remember. Ralph Branch played C melody saxophone with him. Do you know Dr. Branch?
Everybody knows Dr. Ralph Branch. You know Branch because he's been doing the thing
jazz,
the videos.
Thing.
Right.
Videos, yeah.
He's been doing the videos for 50 years.
Yeah.
Right.
The only non-stop continuous jazz setting something historically, I think he really did have
he called it the Jazz Jam Session for you.
And he had a record of a continuous jazz gig for at least 40-something years here in Richmond, if I'm not mistaken.
Tell me about Roscoe.
Roscoe wasn't very well known as far as musicians in Richmond were concerned, but he played lead guitar. He was left-handed, and he played in a group that my brother and I were members of called Maze and the Valiants.
Give us a time frame of one of some of these groups, because when was Maze and the Valiants doing what they were doing? You remember?
In the early 60s.
Wow. All right.
Okay.
Long time ago.
Let me go back to the Baker Brothers that you mentioned with Carlton Massenberg. When did that group exist?
I think that was like, and now I don't know how long he had been playing with them, but I knew Carlton when I was playing with the Fabulettes. And Carlton, Curtis Robb, and I played with Little Walter and the Bonnevilles. That was in the early 70s.
10 West Lee is where I saw you performing with Little Walter and the Bonnevilles.
Really?
10 West Lee, that's right. I'm glad you mentioned that. And Curtis Robb, that's right.
Yeah.
Boy, talk about bringing back some memories. That was quite some time ago.
Hey, Pearl, I got to do this again. Who was your first music teacher?
Samuel Grant.
Okay, Samuel Grant. And then who taught you after that?
Maurice Williams at Armstrong.
Bob Williams.
Bob Williams.
Where did Samuel Grant teach you? What school?
Buckhannon School. I was a kid. I played clarinet. I was about 10 or 11 years old.
Right.
Samuel Grant played with Mays and the Valiants. He played trumpet and keyboards.
And then they recruited you to come play with one of your teachers.
Yeah.
Good. So, Pearl, let me say this to you real quick, because I know we got to move on. You must have truly had the gift. You know, the bug bites some people, and there's just some people who are called and some people who are wannabes. And from what I can tell, you were called to this thing.
When I play in different churches now,
yes,
people tell me, you are gifted. God has gifted you. And I appreciate more than people telling me, oh, you're bad. And I have a Tanya Tillery Sunday tell me, when the when the jazz ladies opened for Royal Airs at the mosque, her son said, you play like a man. John Payton told me.
What John Payton?
Now he taught at Beverly School. I didn't join the band at Beverly School, but I ran into him when I was playing with Little Walter at I think it was the Devil's Club, and he stood up. He looked at me. He walked around the stage. He looked at me. He said, "You know what? I thought you were just trying to be cute." He said, "What you playing that horn?" And he offered me lessons, right?
Right.
And I took him up on it, except it was during his concert season, and we didn't get to meet very often. But he sat in with us a few times when I was playing with the jazz ladies.
Very good.
That's
very
awesome.
Good.
I just wanted to make that little stop over because Pearl has so much knowledge and so much experience.
And want to thank everybody for participating in this program. And maybe Pearl will give me some saxophone lessons one day.
Saxophone.
Just y'all need to get Pearl on a Let's Talk Music.
Yes, Pearl. We
that's
need to
a
do that.
walking
That
encyclopedia
that one-on-one is what we need with you.
I'll take care of that.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening. Okay.
Be
Thank
blessed.
you, y'all.